I'm different. I know I'm different. I'm the only male speaker here today, and I have something to say. I think it's a little shocking. Perhaps it's controversial, and it's certainly gotten a lot of eye rolls. I think women have an advantage in business partnerships. It's not properly utilized, and it's not celebrated enough, but I think there are definitely advantages, things women do that men don't do. I'm a little bit nervous, not because I'm presenting to you today, not because I'm far from home, but because I need to defend this position. Now, some people would call me an attorney or a business strategist, maybe an author or a speaker. But what I'm really doing is research. I'm researching what's going on in the lives of the business and the people I work with. So I'm really an undercover researcher. I'm trying to figure out what's going on in the businesses that come before me. When I'm working with the business owners, when I'm writing about it, when I'm speaking about it, I'm looking at what's going on in business situations, and I'm coming up with themes. And I work a lot with business partnerships. It's one of the common themes in my law firm and my strategy firm. And I also have a history with women. Now, we won't get into my dating history because we only have 18 minutes. But I do want to show you the first woman I had a relationship, my first love. And that's my mom. And there's a picture of my dad there, too. Now, my mom and dad treated me differently. I didn't think much about it when I was 3. But there are differences between our genders, and we act differently. And I don't think it's a bad thing. And I don't want to make this speech about genders, stereotypes, or common perceptions. What I want to do is look at some actual research study and what we've seen. I've certainly built a hypothesis based on my business. When people come to me, I see themes, I see patterns. I get to work with a variety of partnerships in my business, right? I work with partnerships that are men-men, two or more men coming together to form a business. I work with men-women partnerships, men and women in some combination forming a business. And I work with women-women partnerships, 2 or more women coming together to form a business. And when I do this, I start seeing themes. And it caused me to build a hypothesis. And the hypothesis was that, yes, indeed, women can do certain things in partnerships that men don't do. They do things differently. But I need research to support that. I need data. It's great for me to say that, and based on my limited experience in my law firm and my strategy consulting, I can say what I see. But what are other people seeing? How are we bringing this together? So I went out and we looked for research studies to support what I believed and to see how we can make this all come together. And there is indeed a great deal of research and support for this. Let's start by looking at one successful woman partnership, a group that I've gotten to know recently, and see what they did. There's a company called Studio for Image Professionals. Their business is consulting with people that want to help others with their image and their executive placement. It's run by 2 women, one lady named Sylvie DeGusto, she has the dark hair, and the other lady's named Shawn McBride, the blonde-haired lady. And I've got to know Sylvie, and we've had some discussions, and we've talked about their business partnership and what happened. Originally, Sylvie had started a business on her own. And when she did, she surveyed the competitive landscape, and she looked to see who else was out there. And she found that there was one person who she thought might be her equal, who would be able to compete with her, and that was Shawn McBride. So Sylvie went around running her business and keeping an eye on Shawn and what Shawn was doing, until one day she picked the phone up, and the 2 of them talked. 2 weeks later, they met in person, and they had a real discussion about their businesses and their dreams and what they wanted to accomplish. And of course, because I'm telling you this story, we know they became business partners. But what happened when they became business partners? Their sales skyrocketed. They were both suddenly doing better in business. They were serving the customers better. They were focused on the outcome. They were adding synergies to each other. They were doing more to serve their end clients. Their end clients were no longer thinking, should I work with Sylvie or should I work with Shauna? They now had a clear choice to work with both of them. It was a synergistic business. And they've done more because they're business partners. They've taken advantage of certain things, certain themes that underlie why they've been so successful. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Why are women successful in partnerships? Well, number one, women are leaders. Women make up 80% of consumer buying decisions, according to Why She Buys by Bridget Bennon. So women are out there making decisions. I've seen this. Go to Sears on a given Saturday. You'll see a husband and wife come in together, and the wife will say, I want the refrigerator to be this tall, I want it to be in polished silver, and I don't want the shelves so close together. They know what they want. And what are you doing in a business? You have to make a lot of decisions. You have to know what you want. You have to know what you want that business to look like. And women are naturally capable at in this area. And they have skills in this area. They've developed them. Louise P. Frankel, the president of Corporate Coaching International and the author of Nice Girls Still Don't Get the Corner Office, tells us that women have unique leadership skills that allow them to retain and engage the abilities of millennials. So moving forward, women have those talents. But what makes women so successful in business? I think there's three key characteristics that I've seen over and over again with women partnerships. Number one, cooperation and collaboration. Number two, communication. And number three, compromise. We'll call them the 3 C's. Once again, collaboration and communication, and compromise. And women bring these skills together. Let's take a look at them and why they work. Collaboration and cooperation. Very similar concepts, right? The difference between the two is nuanced. But cooperation is when two people are working together on the same end, and collaboration is when two people come together to get to the same goal. We don't need to get into the technical differences between the two. But research has shown us that women are better at collaboration. A 2006 New York Times article, The Difference Between Men and Women Revisited, examines how women have more of the skills for cooperation. They tend to pick collaborative working environments and come together to work as a team. What does this mean for business? It means they're moving forward as a unit. They're doing more. And according to Forbes, what are the top 3 characteristics of successful business? It's a team that cooperates with shared goals. This is great news for women and women businesses. And according to an Indiana University research study, not only do women have the ability and cooperate more, but they have better tools for cooperation. And a recent study by the National Bureau of Economic Research found that when we put men and women in a situation where they need to collaborate, women are more likely to pull a situation where they can collaborate with their counterparts, whereas men are more likely to want to be paid based on their own individual input versus what the team does. So women are willing to be compensated and work as a team. They see the greater whole. They are willing to work in a collaborative environment, whereas men are more likely to want to be individualistic and be paid or compensated based on their own inputs. Now, looking back to Sylvie D'Augusto, she tells me that collaboration has been a key to their success. It is confirmed. And thinking back to growing up with my mom, we always had to collaborate. She always wanted us to figure out a way that we could do things rather than be individualistic. Now, the second key factor we see for men and women is communication. Women and men communicate differently. A study of gender differences in communication has shown us that indeed men and women do communicate differently. But what does this mean? According to a Manchester University research study by Jeffrey Beatty, men tend to use more simple words in communication and less variety in those words, Women tend to use a greater variety of communication styles, and in that communication, they have more concepts. They're able to explain things better. So this means in the business partnership context that women are explaining things, they're communicating, they're working with each other, they're getting concepts across that the men-men partnerships may not get across at the same level. Now, there's one area where women have struggled in communication, where they've been stereotyped as not being as strong as their male counterparts, and that's in negotiations. An MIT study looked at gender differences and the impression that individuals make when they're negotiating found that indeed women identified that they felt disadvantaged in negotiations, that they didn't feel like they were strong and they felt like they were perceived as being weaker. But that same study, when they had women go into the negotiation and focus on the impression they were making, those women had better outcomes in the negotiations. They were able to do better just by focusing on the impression they were making in the negotiation. What does this mean? It means women can do better in negotiations. They can control this. And what are negotiations? At the heart, what really is a negotiation? It's a controlled communication. And women have those communication skills. They can do better at negotiations, and they can be strong. So we have two key factors that women are very strong at that are key to business: the collaboration and cooperation, and the communication. Let's take a look at compromise. Men and women are different in compromise as well. In a research study, men and women were put in a situation where the Journal of Consumer Research asked them to negotiate an outcome. And they had pairs of men-men, men-women, and women-women. The pairings of women-women were much more likely to come to a negotiated outcome, whereas the pair of men-men were much less likely to come to a negotiated outcome. What does this mean? See the difference up there? It's stark. Men will hang on to a position, and they will go into a stalemate. Women are much more likely to use what we call the Goldilocks effect. They're looking for an outcome that's good for everybody, that balances everybody's interests. This is great for business and business partnerships because it keeps the partnership moving forward. In my own informal research, I've found that men-men partnerships are much more likely to get into a stalemate than their female counterparts. When I have partners come to me and are having communication problems and they can't move the partnership forward, it's much more likely to be a group of men than a group of women. So we've seen these three themes: collaboration and cooperation, communication, and compromise. What does this look like from the greater perspective? Well, Shawn McBride and Sylvie D'Augusto will tell me that they've used these skills to build a life and a business they love. Where else does this come into play? Well, back home, my mom and dad, my father's currently battling cancer. My mother never got to have a business. She never ran a business. But she's using these 3 C's today. She's collaborating. She's pulling the teams together to take care of my father and his medical needs. She's communicating with the doctors and the family and keeping everything moving forward. And she's compromising. She knows that not everybody's needs are going to be met in every situation. And what does this look like from the national business scene? Well, currently there are over 10 million women-owned businesses in the United States. That's more than the population of Topeka, Kansas City, and Overland Park combined. And there will be over 500,000 new women-run businesses created in 2016. So women are engaging in business. But I don't think they're using the advantages in business partnerships enough. They're not capitalizing on these things that I've talked about today. They're not engaging in this enough. What would the world look like if we had more women-owned businesses? If we had more business partnerships involving women that we're using these 3 C's. What would the workplace look like if we had more collaboration and cooperation, more communication, and more compromise? Wouldn't that be better for all parties involved, men and women? It's something we need to do more of, and it's an idea worth spreading. Thank you.